In this lesson, we'll be organizing our letters and using the Align panel with the letter compositions. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a little bit of housekeeping really quickly. I want to come into my layers panel here and organize everything so that it's no longer alphabetical, but that it is actually in the stack of the order of the word. So I just will come up here, select a letter, and then bring it to the top of the stack so that we can read down from the top our text. So you can kind of see how this works. And the reason that I want to do this is because later on, if we want to have some kind of an interesting way that this reveals, we'll probably want it to be in the order of the way that you would read this. So if maybe there's a little bit of a stagger where some letters come on earlier that are here than letters that come later, you would want for those to be in order in your project panel because it'll make it way faster for you to work with. So we'll want our timeline to definitely reflect that change. Okay, so it's going to take just a little bit to get all of those in order. You just want to make sure that you're actually clicking the ones that you want here because we know that we have duplicates. So you may put an O at the right place in the stack, but it's not the correct O. So that's definitely something that you want to keep in mind. And I just think it's easier to use the viewer to figure out if I'm placing it correctly. Okay, so I'm going to pause and finish ordering these, and we'll come back with the next step in just a moment. Okay, so we're back, and I have ordered the stack to spell out the sentence just the same way that it does up here. So now what I want to do is organize it just a little bit further by color coding each line. So right now they're all brown and it's a little bit hard to see where one line ends and another begins. So a quick way to do that is to just select everything by the line. And you can see that's going to be all of those layers just there. And then come over here and left click on one of these little tags and then we can change that line's color. Now let's do the same thing for our middle line. We'll just come down in here. Let's make this one fuchsia. And then our last bit right there, let's do dark green. That's the one at the bottom. Okay, so we've got 3 different colors here for our lines, and that's really is going to help us be more organized later. Now, the next thing I want to do is use the Align panel with these layers to really start to get this to look like an actual sentence and not just something that was placed by hand. So again, let's select everything on our top layer, and I'm going to use the vertical center alignment. Now, a lot of times I would recommend using something more like maybe the top alignment, like this one, vertical top alignment. But you can see that with the R and the O, they don't really work as well with that. So I find that because they're a little bit shorter in this particular font, if we just do a vertical center alignment, everything looks a little bit more aligned. So I'm going to do that for the whole thing. We'll select them all and do a vertical center alignment. Same here and here. Great. So that is really going to help make this look better. Now, the next part is not quite so easy. You're going to want to go through and hand kern all of these letters. Now, you're adjusting the tracking overall for this font, but you're having to kern them because we only have control over the individual letters since this isn't an actual font. It's simply something that we have created. It's not really going to work with the type tool or anything like that. So you'll want to go through and begin that kerning process, which can take a while, especially depending on how big of a stickler you are for your typography and how great you want it to look. So I'm just kind of really quickly going through and doing a first pass on mine. And then I would want to go back through here in a moment and make sure that I didn't leave anything out or forget to move something over. Just a lot of little fine tune sort of touches. Okay, so let's move down to the next line. It's going pretty quickly. And this one is a hard one because it's got so many extreme types of shapes in this word. So it's going to probably end up looking a little bit wider than the rest of the font does. And that's really okay. That's just sort of unavoidable with the way that this font has been designed. Okay, so that is pretty good. Maybe this V could move over a little bit more to the right. And I always like doing kind of a close-up kern like I just did, and then kind of zooming out really starts to help you see the gaps a lot better. Like this word, there's just really not a lot helping it because it just has all these very large areas. I think dog might be a little bit close, and so we can adjust that a little bit by hand. And that E can move over. Pretty basic stuff. Okay, so this is looking really good for the lines as far as the words go, but we still need to work on the spaces between those words. So let's just kind of do that in between lessons. That's pretty easy. You'll just want to shift select or draw a box around all the letters, and then just kind of start moving those around in your composition just to get those spaces not necessarily lining up, but just so they have about the same amount of space between letters so there's not large gaps. And then we're going to come back in our next lesson and begin animating the position property for some of these letters. So we'll definitely want to already have these kind of in their final spot that we're happy with at that point. Now, we also want to make sure that the line spacing from here to here looks good. And also, let's go ahead and take our title action safe and turn that on so that we can see how this fits in relation with the rest of the composition. It looks like it just needed to be scooted over slightly. So that actually looks pretty good. We can maybe move this line over and this line over a little bit just to make sure that it's looking better centered, or you could left align the whole thing. It's really up to you. So I'm pretty happy with the way this looks. So let's come back in our next lesson and we'll begin animating the position property for these letters.